This is working. You can hear me? I apologize for my voice. Last night, yeah, I don't need to say anything more, except that you are guilty. I'm here to talk about something that I got involved with a few years back because some friends of mine in the demo scene decided to stop with their paying jobs and start doing non-paying jobs, which has then entered into a very exciting venture. They're called Outracks. They're known in the demo scene as the Outracks Demo Group, but they're also known as the Outracks Technology Company. And I am here to sort of talk a little bit about that. One of the guys, two of them actually were on GDC last week. They were supposed to be here, and my name was the placeholder in the program. As these things turn out, I am now the speaker of this thing. So let's talk a little bit about Outracks first and where we're from. Despite popular opinion, we are not the capital of Sweden. We are this small thing over here. And the pedigree from Outracks come from actually from hardware as well as the demo scene, because many of them were involved with the startup Phalanx, which then turned into ARM, or was bought by ARM, and they're very well known for making the Mali series of mobile GPUs. So in that instance, I am the new guy. I'm literally started working for the company 4 days ago. I'm also on a Mac, the only Mac user in the office, which means I will run some of my demos off VMware, which is always exciting. So I tell you to bear with me on that one. So the tools that we make, or a tool is called Realtime Studio. It's basically a tool for any sort of visual development. For front-end stuff. It can be for a mobile phone, it can be for a desktop, native apps, it can be for WebGL, JavaScript, anything where you need something to move, and preferably move in the way that you wanted it to move when you designed it. And why did we go into this where there is so many good tools already, tools and libraries? Well, back in the day, when the huge GPUs, and an even bigger one was introduced just yesterday, a GPU is really expensive, and it's really big, and it's really complicated, and it's like a huge beast. It's excellent for games. It's excellent for complex tasks and massive compute tasks. But those types of GPUs aren't really the type of GPUs that exist in terms of volume, because these are the kind of GPUs we're talking about there. And a current GPU in a modern mobile phone usually consists of twice or even more of the footprint on the SoC than the actual CPU. But it's very rarely used, so they're underutilized, but they're there, and they're super powerful, super fast, and you can use them for all sorts of amazing things. And they're in the devices that you don't normally associate with a GPU, if you even relate to that sort of terminology. They're in the smartphones, they're in your TV, they're in your car. They're pretty much everywhere, but people don't necessarily buy them. They're just there, which means that they're underutilized and they're ready for the taking. The problem with them is that GPUs don't necessarily want to play along with what you want to do. There are APIs that are low level. If you want to talk to different kinds of GPUs, you sort of have to use different sort of languages. And cross-platform stuff can be hard, expensive, and it takes a lot of time. And you often sort of need specialist knowledge to sort of squeeze that last bit of juice out of the platform that you're targeting. But you still want to target them, because anyone who works in engineering knows that getting something finished, well, first of all, it never happens. Something is never finished. It's just shipped. But second of all, if you actually finish something, you want to try to use it where you can and try to reuse it. And the reuse of code and reuse of assets was one of the things we were thinking about when making a Realtime Studio. Now, I said I started 4 days ago, which is true, but I've actually been involved in 2011, so I actually have some background, just not all of the practical ones. So If you can generalize where it makes sense, you can reuse it, and that makes perfect business and technology sense. And then there might be someone who says, well, that's all good and fine, but I actually use this library or this game engine or whatever that can ... And you can, and you do, and they're awesome. There are a lot of them, and they're really, really good. But when you start to pick them apart, they kind of fall apart in certain places. So you might have something that's really good for making an Android game or an iOS game, and you might have something that's really good for making interactive content on the web. But they're usually different tools or different libraries. So what if you don't want to make games or anything like that? Which brings us to Uno. Please don't sue. Is the name of our programming language. Because we wanted to set out to try to find a common solution to the problems that were related with multi-platform programming, and specifically with graphics. And after a lot of thinking and many years in the demo scene and in the sort of hardware GPU sector, we discovered that we kept coming back to the sort of the most insane solution, which is to make a new programming language, which you should never do unless you're crazy or from Norway. So we decided to do that because the natural sort of interop for graphics isn't a file format or an exchange format. It's actually just code. If you can interrupt code, then that makes a lot of sense. So that's what we wanted to do. The language itself is very familiar if you know any sort of object-oriented language, or specifically C#. So we looked at what worked and said, OK, this works. Let's try to build something that's close to this and add graphics capabilities, which is our core interest. So we tried to figure out a way to deal with the multi-platform issues. And the result is that you can export native code, and native is as in HTML or whatever .NET code or anything you want to run on Linux or OS X or whatever from the same source. So it's an abstraction, but it's a different kind of abstraction because it's actually structured and human readable. Unless you actually compile in release mode for the web, then it's not human readable at all, but it's insanely compact. Now, some of you might have seen the Firefox and Unreal Engine sorry, news release that they had at GDC last week, where they used Emscripten and ASM.js to show you a game engine running in Firefox. And that's awesome, and it's really good, and you can take the tool that you have, and you can export it. The problem is that if you open Unreal Editor and make a square, flat, or a cube, we like cubes, and you export it that way, you get a 50 megabyte bundle of binary hell. And that's not really good to debug, and it's huge. But if you do it in our way, we actually, the core is the compiler. The compiler actually looks at your content and says, this is my content, this is what happens with the content, and this is the target platform. OK, how do I compile this for maximum speed or compatibility or whatnot? And that's why we like our solution, and we invite you to give it a try. You can interrupt with it on the export language, and the cool thing is you can actually export and then debug and take all of that knowledge and put it back into your source code, so you sort of don't have to go back and forth, back and forth. You can, if you want to specifically debug and speed up things for one platform, you can, but you can save that knowledge for later as well. Which leads to sort of unbeatable performance, which is sort of a double-edged sword, because yes, you will get super performance because you can just say that if you want to target a device, maybe you don't target WebGL running on an Android phone in Chrome, or a JavaScript library running on a web browser, because you can also just push out a native executable for that platform instead. So the new guy thing, my slider notes actually says this demo is going to suck, which I wrote last night at 2 a.m. Hopefully not, but I will bring up this little thing over here. So this is the tool that we have. This is Realtime Studio running a sort of a little demo that we made, sort of an interactive game thingy. I wish I had it on this screen as well, but. So this is the tool, this is the inspector. You can choose and pick and do whatever you want with the content. And as with all other tools of this thing, we actually made a node view, which, like Pixter talking about, and Smash yesterday, also with his tool, Demoscene, which is excellent for me because I am not a coder at all. But I do know how to work with broken laptops and this code view. So what they did actually send me was they made a Game Boy renderer. So this is just, this code block right here is an entire rendering pipeline. And they also sent me, this is why I like to work with cool people, a text mode and old school gaming rendering pipeline, which might not look as much. It looks sort of LucasArtsy. But this is the power of the node view. I don't know how this works, but if I want, I can go in and go to the definition and see all of the code. So everything that's in the node view is actually just representing code. So node view can be as complex as you want, and you can expose any entity in your pipeline or in multiple pipelines through the node view and in code. Which brings us back to the point where having code be the sort of the lowest common denominator for the project makes sense. Because even non-coders can work with code, it just doesn't have to look like code. So I'm going to go back to, I'm going to show you a different demo as well. But first, I'm going to show you, if we have audio on this laptop, just a quick video that we made for the launch of our last milestone beta. Which will show you a bit more of the features.
Realtime Studio is a new development environment which gives both programmers and designers an entirely new approach to creating amazing user experiences and visuals. It's the tool that you can rely on for all kinds of front-end development every time and on every platform. Something that just works and makes things look great while providing all the flexibility needed to really unleash your creativity. Being built on Uno, the world's first hybrid CPU and GPU programming language, means that everything you create in Realtime Studio can be deployed as full-performance native code on any platform, as well as blazing fast HTML5 and WebGL for any browser. We are very excited about Realtime Studio and Uno, and we would like to share it with you. Get the power to create at outracks.com.
Yeah, so we would very much like to get more cool people in the beta program. I wanted to show you one of our beta users now. He's been working for quite a while on his project, AffixVJ, which is if you know the milk drop or other sort of visualization engines that you used to use in a good old Winamp, which I actually still use, or the now infamous iTunes visualizer that Flight 404 made. This is sort of like that, except it runs fully in WebGL, and it's also going to come out as native apps, I'm told. And what he's done is he's sort of integrated it with I can't actually read, does it say? Oh, whatever. We're going to pick this song. It integrated with GrooveShark and with SoundCloud. And it just gets music directly from SoundCloud, and it enables you to sort of visualize the music that you have. You can also use local music as well, I believe. This runs fully automated, but you can also cheat a little bit, which I will proceed to do. wanted to applaud. I'm guessing he's sitting in Finland, having a drink or something, watching this. So what he's actually done is he's implemented a series of rendering pipelines for it. So I can actually go and switch between rendering and post-processing timelines while inside the effect. So I can switch the effect by these by number keys, and I can switch the pipelines just by pushing a key. You can also just running on automated. So all of this is written fully in Uno, and we're very happy to have had him actually come visit us a few times in Oslo and just get help to help us as well get pretty stable performance. That's one thing, but also to teach him the tricks, because he had a Flash background and ActionScript, and we had to actually go and unlearn a few of the sort of the Demoscene hacks way to do things, and say, hey, you don't actually have to hack your way through this anymore and end up in sort of hack valley, which is a cool place to be, but it can be hard to maintain. You can actually just do it the good way. And that actually took a few months, but once he started to get through that, the things he's been able to make is pretty awesome. So it's on affixvj.com. You can all just check it out. And as an end to that, I would like to just once more ask you to please sign up for a beta program. It's completely free, obviously. We have really good developer communication and DevOps going. You can have one-on-one Skype calls with our guys in Oslo, unless the time zone is really, really itchy, to just help you out. And we have tons of material on both the language and test projects that you can use in our beta zone. So this is sort of a short intro. I didn't want to go the full hour by being the guy who just stands there rambling and doesn't know anything. But I have some knowledge about the inner workings of the thing. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I'll just leave this in the background. Unless that wasn't clear, I am now done. I'll be happy to show anyone I'm sitting at the end of the hall afterwards, by the way, so we don't have to take up your lunchtime or if you're going to go out and eat. So
if you have any questions, raise hand, and I'll do the usual.
Well, thank you for your time.
Ben, thank you.
And yeah, come see me afterwards and go to outracks.com to check it out.
Oh, there's one. Wait.
Who are you targeting with your product?
Who are we targeting?
Yeah.
Well, we're targeting people who are into any sort of graphics development that doesn't necessarily require or should require the use of a game engine or a library. So if you're into interactive development, sort of installation, art, anything where Flash has been your go-to platform for the last maybe 10 or so years, and you're looking at the HTML5, CSS animation hacks, and you're thinking, well, this doesn't really cut it, then that will be the target.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, there's more.
Might as well.
Thanks. So, say I'm developing for iOS or Android or any other platform for that matter. Is the final deliverable of a project on that platform an APK or an actual binary, or can you integrate partially with an existing stack? Or?
Yeah, so you can either just hit the button and get the APK if you have the SDK installed. It will just go through the usual pipeline, and you can actually hook it up with a cable and just do all of the test debugging right on the device. We also have support for multiple layouts and multiple screen sizes and multiple devices simultaneously inside the tool. So you can actually debug and create assets and move them around and see the actual representations in different aspects, different DPIs and stuff, different hardware as well.
So if no one else, then thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
And